Hey friends, I've got some downtime, so I thought it would be fun to throw together a little video. I've been thinking a lot lately about compatibility and specifically about the differences of how I would assess zodiac sign compatibility versus how zodiac sign compatibility is often looked at through what I would call pop astrology or more like shallow levels of astrology, if that makes sense. So I thought it would be fun to go through a pop astrology site, pop astrology article, and we're gonna see how they view zodiac sign compatibility, and we're just gonna go through and kind of compare and contrast how I would rank the sign compatibility versus what we would see through a site like this. Okay, so I think this will be fun, and I want to mention before we proceed any further that obviously this entire approach in itself is already oversimplified. I think to say, I mean, because first of all, this is kind of based on sun astrology more so, sun sign astrology or star sign astrology, which I mean, I was even debating before starting to film this. What is it even worthwhile to approach compatibility in this way? I think you could tell a little bit of information. You could glean like some truth from this, but it's going to be so vague that it's really not even worth your time. I always say when looking at compatibility, look at Venus, Mars, and the descendant. Whatever signs those are in, those point to different aspects of what that person is attracted to. Like, for example, I have descendant in Sagittarius, Venus in Leo. Those are both fire signs. I'm clearly attracted toward fire signs. Does that make sense? So, if two or more of those three placements are in one element, then that shows a really clear attraction toward that element for that person. Does that make sense? And that's true regardless of the person's sun or moon sign. Let's say someone has sun and moon in Pisces, so very watery, dreamy, whatever, Pisces. But then let's say their descendant Venus and Mars are all in Aries. Well, Pisces and Aries wouldn't usually be looked at as compatible, but this person would very clearly be attracted to someone that is very, outgoing and fiery, either someone with major placements in Aries or someone who has similar placements, maybe other fire placements. Does that make sense? So it's actually very simple when you look at it that way, but it does depend on more than just the sun or even the moon. That's really my philosophy. Anyway, but okay, so with that kind of out of the way, let's see what this article has to say. I haven't looked through all of them. I did look at the first couple, and I also wrote down some notes. I wrote down some matches for how, what I would expect people to come up with for obvious zodiac sign matches of compatibility. And then I wrote some underrated matches, and then I also wrote if I had to rank just one or two, because that's what this article is going to rank the most, the singular most compatible sign for each sign. So I kind of did that on my own as well. So we'll just kind of see what comes up, I guess. And we're not going to read all this. We're just looking for what they say is the most compatible sign. Okay, so for Aries, they say the most compatible sign is Leo. Okay, so I don't hate this. I just think it's oversimplified. This is what you often see. I think the sign that has the most in common to Aries is Leo. So it may be tempting to say, oh, well, this sign is so similar. They're going to be able to communicate very easily. I think this is going to be a huge friendship. It's going to be a very easy connection, especially after a long day. Aries and or Leo can come to each other, and it's an easy connection. They can just be themselves. There's that mutual understanding. So, yeah, I see all that. I get that. I would say my favorite, or I think the most compatible sign for Aries would be Libra or maybe Aries. Aries with another Aries works really well, or Aries with Libra. I'm really more tempted to pair Aries with air signs. It's no secret that fire and air signs are very compatible to each other because, yes, they do have a little bit less in common than pairing a fire sign with another fire sign like we see with Aries and Leo. But I think that actually works to their favor. Aries and Libra are opposites. Aries, they're very much opposite. Aries is so spontaneous and they just put themselves out there. They're very decisive, very confident. Libra loves that because Libra can see every side to the equation. Libra's kind of always waiting for someone else to initiate, if that makes sense. So Libra loves that Aries will take charge and initiate. Libra loves confidence as well. Aries is very confident. So I think Aries and Libra not only would be attracted to each other, even maybe intimidated by each other, but also they can benefit from each other's differences. It's a more complementary dynamic. They can. I think when you do have some differences, those differences are going to fuel the passion between the two of you. The more you have in common with someone, the more it's going to feel like you're dating yourself, which is, yes, that might be very comfortable and easy, but it could also be a little lackluster. It's going to be kind of boring. There's not as much to learn there, if that makes sense. Other than if you're just learning about yourself, if you're in a period of self discovery, then it would make more sense to date someone who's similar to yourself because you're learning about yourself. But if you're in a period of, exploration and, let's see what else is out there, I want to learn something new, I want to experience something exciting, you're going to need some differences with your astrology. And that's where I think Aries and Libra can be much more attractive. Last thing I want to say about that is Aries. So Aries and Libra, I think, admire each other because Libra admires Aries' confidence, their decisiveness, their outgoingness, if that makes sense. Even if they're not a particularly outgoing Aries is very independent. Libra really admires that. Aries admires Libra because Libra is so cool, calm, and collected. They're not really affected by anything. And Aries is very easily affected by like everything. So I think that's where they both admire each other. It's very complementary. I love that because there's more for them to learn and like benefit each other. If one's having a bad day, the other one can like prop them up more so. So Aries and Leo, I don't think that's a terrible combination. I just think it's kind of boring, if that makes sense. Okay, next is Taurus. What do they say about Taurus? So I was actually a little surprised that they matched Taurus with Virgo. I think, and this is where you see they're just going with elements. They matched Aries with Leo, which is another fire sign. Those are the two most fiery and independent signs. And then now they're matching Taurus with Virgo, two earth signs. Again, it's just kind of boring. I mean, yeah, of course, any signs that have the same element are going to have a lot in common, like we talked about with Aries and Leo. The same applies here. Taurus and Virgo are both earth signs. They're down to earth, practical, responsible, reliable. They can understand each other very well. They even have some differences that they can kind of like admire and complement each other a little bit. Taurus is a little bit more stable than Virgo is. Taurus is also a little bit more upbeat, I think, than Virgo. Virgo's a little bit more cynical. So even those differences, I think, can be a little bit interesting. But at the end of the day, they're two earth signs. They're going to have a lot in common. Yes, that does make for a really easy connection, great communication. They're both very sensual. Like, that can work very well. My only criticism is, again, it's not interesting, I think of course, it always depends on Venus, Mars, and the descendant. But all else being equal, I think a Taurus or a Virgo that's really grounded and whole within themselves is going to be looking for an energy that's a little bit more different than themselves because they'll be open to other energies. So that's where, again, I would look more to the opposite element. Earth signs with water can work very well because the earth provides structure for the water sign, and water signs are very nurturing, which the earth signs kind of soak up, if that makes sense. So for Taurus, what did I say for Taurus? I thought they were going to say Cancer because Taurus and Cancer are like famously known about. It's almost an overrated connection, but really I can see why though. Taurus and Cancer I would connect together because they sextile, they form a harmonious aspect. There's enough difference between them to be a complementary dynamic, but there's enough in common that they still can have a lot in common and communicate very easily and relate to one another. Both Taurus and Cancer have a lunar connection. Moon is exalted in Taurus and it rules Cancer. So both are like very emotionally intelligent, both value structure, both hate drama, both want like that emotional stability and tranquility. But the difference is that Cancer is more emotional, Taurus is a little bit more like practical and logical. So they both enjoy those differences. Taurus soaks up the nurturing energy of Cancer, and Cancer loves the reliability and the structure of Taurus. Because did I say that right? I think I did. Because Cancer is so emotional, they need someone reliable to commit with. So Taurus is like the most reliable sign there is, really. So I would say Cancer would be my pick, or Scorpio. Taurus and Scorpio is another one that's very interesting. Those signs are opposite each other. So Both Taurus and Scorpio are fixed signs, which I like pairing fixed signs together because even when they butt heads, like Taurus and Scorpio are both stubborn and they do have their differences being opposite signs. So they may butt heads, but that's not the worst thing in the world for compatibility. When they butt heads, as long as you understand and respect each other, I think disagreeing can actually fuel the passion. Like Taurus and Scorpio may disagree with one another, but they respect each other because each one is strong willed. Each one is stubborn. Each one says, well, I'm not going to change my stance. You're not going to change your stance. But at least I respect you for that. At least I understand you. So I think Taurus and Scorpio can actually be a very passionate connection. What else? Scorpio, kind of like Cancer, is very emotional and is looking for someone very reliable and straightforward, someone they can invest in emotionally and maybe otherwise as well, financially maybe. So Scorpio again is going to be very comforted by Taurus, which is the most reliable sign. And I think Taurus enjoys how Scorpio is a little bit more out of the box than they are. Scorpio is interesting. So Taurus and Virgo, sure, that can work. I think Taurus and Cancer or Taurus and Scorpio would be a little bit more interesting. Taurus and Pisces could also work. Pisces is the third water sign that we haven't talked about yet. But Taurus is so rigid and so structured, so straightforward and reliable. And Pisces is so scattered and all over the place that I think they may have more different than they have in common. With Taurus and Cancer or Scorpio, we're in that happy medium of there's enough in common they can relate to each other, but there's enough differences that there's a little bit of spice there, if that makes sense. So I think that's what I'm looking for with compatibility for these signs. Next is Gemini. So this is as far as I got in the article. I didn't see, and I guess you could argue, well, you're not reading these, but I mean, I think that would be boring, and I really don't. I think we can do better than this. Maybe I'm being very condescending toward this article, but that's how I feel. I'm sorry. So again, we're seeing a pattern of they're just matching each sign with another sign of the same element, which is, to me, that's so boring. To me, that's more friendship material. Could that be a romantic relationship? Sure. But with this one in particular, I really disagree. When you match two air signs, I don't usually see this in compatibility, especially they chose Libra for Gemini, which I honestly would have liked Aquarius for Gemini better than Libra, because both Gemini and Libra, they do have a lot in common, but this is a situation where their commonalities, I think, actually make it more difficult for a romantic relationship to blossom and develop, and especially for an interesting romantic relationship to happen. And I'll explain why. So Gemini and Libra are both, they're the more fickle air signs as contrasted from Aquarius. Aquarius is fixed air, so it's a little bit more stubborn and a little bit more individualistic. It retains its shape. It doesn't care about what other people are doing. It's going to do its own thing. That's very different than Gemini or Libra. Gemini and Libra see every different aspect to everything. They see everyone's point of view. Gemini and Libra are both overthinkers. And so as a result, they can be very intelligent when it comes to complicated situations and taking everything into account, every variable. They have that intelligence. But that comes at the cost of confidence. Because what I've noticed, my philosophy is the signs that are the most confident are also the most simplistic. Okay. And that's not a critique, it's just an observation. If you view the world in a more simplistic lens, in a more black and white type of way, that allows you to proceed with confidence because you're not sitting there weighing every little minutia of information. Does that make sense? So Gemini and Libra, the cost of this kind of intelligence that they have is that they're not the best when it comes to initiating. Okay, so that's my main point here, is that Gemini and Libra are going to be awkward next to each other. They're both overthinking. They're both waiting for the other one to initiate. Air signs in general don't usually like to initiate, especially Gemini and Libra. Aquarius is the only one that, especially depending on what else is in their astrology, they may be a leader for sure and initiate. But Gemini and Libra are going to be, observing each other, analyzing each other, kind of waiting for the other one to initiate. When you have two overthinkers together, I don't think that's sexy. Yes, they can relate, and these signs could have maybe a great conversation, but they're both so detached and neither one initiates. So There's nothing driving this dynamic forward. I think that's where both Gemini and Libra, for that matter, I shouldn't get ahead of myself, but both Gemini and Libra are typically looking for a more strong-willed personality than themselves, usually fire signs. But Gemini in particular, so I match Gemini with Sagittarius. I think Gemini and Sagittarius work beautifully together. Gemini can work with the other fire signs too. Gemini gets bored easily. So does Libra, but I'm going to save that for Libra's part of the video. Gemini gets bored easily, and again, it's refreshing for an air sign to be around a fire sign, because fire signs make things more simplified. They can initiate with more confidence. Gemini is a little complicated, which not every fire sign will have the time or patience for. But Gemini and Sagittarius work really beautifully together because they have so much in common. We're combining mutable air with mutable fire. Both Gemini and Sagittarius are intellectual, but Sagittarius is a fire sign, so it does have that oomph, that charisma, that boldness, that outgoing nature, that adventurous attitude. So Gemini loves that. Gemini loves how Sagittarius is both like very physically active but also mentally active. So they can have deep conversations. They're both analytical, but then the difference is Sagittarius is more physically active and it's more of a leader, which I think is refreshing and complements Gemini very nicely, if that makes sense. So Gemini and Libra, honestly, I like this combination less than the first two. Aries and Leo, sure, that could work. Taurus and Virgo, yeah, that could work. Gemini and Libra, I think it's like a friendship material at best. Of course, I'm going to go back over and over again to, this could change. Let's say someone has Sun in Gemini, but Venus, well, actually, that can't happen. I was going to say Venus, Mars, and the descendant in Libra, but technically that's not possible. Let's say someone has Sun in Gemini with Mars and the descendant in Libra. Then yeah, that person would be attracted toward Libras, but that's not going to be the case for most people who have major placements in Gemini. Generally speaking, someone with Gemini placements, they're going to look for someone more strong-willed than themselves, probably a fire sign. I would say Sagittarius, but even Aries or Leo, I think, would be a better match than Libra. Okay, next is Cancer. If they match Cancer with another water sign, I'm going to scream. I'm not going to scream. I want to kind of guess. Are they going to match Cancer with Scorpio or Pisces? I don't know. I don't really know. Scorpio? I'm going to guess Scorpio. Yep. Okay. See, this is where it becomes so boring and predictable. Like, you can't just match signs with, like, anyone who understands elements in astrology. Now I'm ranting, but anyone who understands elements in astrology, you can do better than this. You can do better than this article, because you can already, even just by understanding the 4 elements, you can already predict what they're saying. And I mean, no, just because you can predict something doesn't necessarily mean that it's not valuable. But I just think there's much more nuance and complexity with compatibility. I think we can do better than this. So anyway, so they say Cancer is one of the most sensitive signs. And again, my point, I'm not saying that Cancer and Scorpio wouldn't work. I mean, yes, they do have a lot in common. Both are deep feelers. That's pretty much what they're saying here too. Cancer and Scorpio share a powerful chemistry and emotional connection, often sensing each other's moods and emotions without speaking. Together, they are capable of creating their sanctuary built on mutual respect and unconditional love, considering those are the things they most desire from a romantic partner. I don't disagree with what they're saying here. What I disagree with is saying that Cancer's most compatible sign is Scorpio. Could that work? Yeah, I think that would be really great. Okay, water signs do work well with other water signs. Okay, that's true. I mean, the only pairing I've disagreed with so far is Gemini and Libra. I just think that's a bad idea, generally speaking. But water sign with another water sign, sure. I mean, Cancer and Scorpio in particular, I could see why they chose that. I often characterize Cancer as being the most emotional sign and Scorpio as being the most emotionally intense sign. So of course they're going to understand each other on a deep level, just like you saw explained in this paragraph here. Yeah, I mean, they will both be receptive to each other's emotion and understanding of those things. Water signs, particularly Scorpio and Cancer, they feel so deeply that they need a safe option. They need to know that the person that they're involved in is reliable and consistent, and that they're going to be there for them. Um, because they feel so strongly that their own well-being is kind of put in the other person's hands, even more than like a typical relationship. So that's why they need to know this person is going to be reliable. And I think you can find that astrologically one of two ways: either go with another water sign, like this type of dynamic, or go with an earth sign, which I think would be a little bit more interesting because you're dealing with a different element. But earth signs are more reliable and responsible than water signs, generally speaking. The advantage of water sign with another water sign, you're choosing the safe option because you're choosing someone similar to yourself. You have such an easy connection that you can rely on them for that reason. And both Cancer and Scorpio value loyalty. So that's where I can see that. I don't hate that. But what I would choose for Cancer would be either Taurus or Capricorn, because I mentioned earlier how Taurus and Cancer are, even in pop astrology, Taurus and Cancer are usually paired. Cancer loves Taurus's, sensuality and their stability. They're reliable. They're safe. Both have that lunar connection that I talked about. So both value boundaries. Both have emotional intelligence and intuition. I'm looking for that sweet spot that I talked about earlier of, they have enough in common that they can get along very easily, very naturally, but they have enough different from one another that they can kind of complement each other. Each one has different strengths to bring to the table. So that's kind of what I like with compatibility. You don't have that as much with Scorpio and Cancer. So yeah, that is a deep connection. It's a very kind of obvious one to understand. But Cancer and Taurus, I would choose over Scorpio, or even Capricorn. But that would take a very mature Cancer with a very mature Capricorn, because Capricorn and Cancer are very different. Any opposing signs are going to be very different from one another, but especially the earth and water signs. Those can be a little tricky with compatibility, more so than fire and air signs, in my opinion. Cancer and Capricorn, at first glance, it seems kind of crazy that I would even suggest that, because Cancer is so emotional and Capricorn is so detached. Capricorn, they're so different. Their differences are very obvious. Capricorn is very future oriented and always planning and coming up with goals and things like that. And Cancer is much more focused on like the immediate, their immediate feelings. That's what they're all about, is how they feel in the moment. So yeah, they can be different. I think an immature Cancer with an immature Capricorn will just drive each other crazy. They're not going to understand each other. It wouldn't work. But when they are mature in themselves, it can actually be really beautiful, because Capricorn is kind of like the builder. It's been said before that, Capricorn builds the home, the structure, and then Cancer like fills the home. Capricorn builds a house. Cancer makes the house a home, if that makes sense. They both have what each other is lacking. Cancer brings that emotional nurturing to the picture, and Capricorn provides the structure, which ultimately that's what Cancer is looking for. So I really like Cancer with an earth sign. I don't hate Cancer with another water sign. That could definitely work. But I think Cancer with Taurus or Capricorn could be really interesting. Even Cancer with Virgo, I think that is an underrated connection. Cancer and Virgo can drive each other crazy, because Virgo's like very organized and meticulous, and that can be annoying to Cancer. Cancer can be a little bit more messy and unorganized, which can be annoying to Virgo. But I do think it's something at least worth thinking about that other people don't seem. I never hear about Cancer and Virgo, but that even could work as well. Okay, next is Leo. Let's see what fire sign they pair Leo with. Okay, so they actually went with Sagittarius, which I was kind of thinking they'd pair Leo with Aries, since they paired Aries with Leo. So wouldn't they pair Leo with Aries? I guess each sign's most compatible match doesn't work like that, I guess. See, does that make sense? That doesn't make sense to me. Okay, so I mean, I don't want to sound like a broken record. Leo, Sagittarius, again, we're matching two fire signs. Yes, they have a lot in common. Leo and Sagittarius are both very warm, positive, adventurous, happy-go-lucky. This is party energy. But this is one of those things where it's like, yeah, each one can enjoy having those things in common with the other one. But if you put two like really impulsive party loving signs together, is that actually the best match for both of them? Both could be reckless, both I also forgot to mention with Aries and Leo in particular that both like attention. So both can be competing for attention, which may or may not, maybe that's just a fun competition, but maybe it's irritating. To a lesser extent, you could have that same dynamic with Leo and Sagittarius. Both might be fighting for attention, and that's just something that you wouldn't see if you match the fire signs with an air sign. Air signs don't really like attention as much. They don't mind kind of being on the back burner while the fire sign is soaking up all the attention. Air signs actually kind of enjoy living through them, living vicariously through them, and kind of just being around that energy, if that makes sense. Um, so I would match Sagittarius with Gemini, just like I matched Gemini with Sagittarius. Oh no, we're not on that yet. We're talking about Leo. I'm sorry. I would match Leo. I think I said Aquarius or Libra, is what I would say for Leo, because Leo's like the sun. Leo's ruled by the sun, so they're the center of attention. Kind of like what I was saying. So Leo wants to be in charge. They want to take charge. They want to initiate. So an air sign is going to be the most receptive to that. Sagittarius could be receptive to that. Sagittarius is a little bit more. I almost don't want to say shy. Many people I know who have major Sagittarius placements are a little shy. So they may enjoy, going along with Leo, and they may be very receptive to Leo. But an air sign would be even more so, if that makes sense. And then there'd be more differences with air signs. Air, especially Libra or Aquarius. Gemini could work too. Leo and Aquarius, I think, are really interesting because, again, you have this dynamic of two fixed signs, two opposing fixed signs. So they are going to butt heads sometimes, but they will respect each other in doing so. Both Leo and Aquarius are leaders, but in different ways. Leo is a leader in a more obvious way. They're very engaged. They're very hands-on. They lead directly. Like they have a very commanding, authoritative presence. Aquarius does too, but in a more like independent way. Aquarius is a leader by example. Aquarius leads by like blazing their own path and doing their own thing. And so that's where I think Leo and Aquarius can really admire each other and admire each other's differences. And do their differences mean that they're going to butt heads? Yes. But the important thing is they will see each other, because with an opposition, you're opposite. You see each other. That's why it can be so intense. That's why, how long has that been lopsided? Oppositions can be intense. Oppositions, you may butt heads, but you're going to understand each other, though. Does that mean you'll agree? No, not necessarily. But more importantly than that, you're going to understand and respect each other. Strong, fixed signs are strong-willed. So I think they can really, like, vibe with each other's energies and even their differences. I think differences make, particularly a romantic relationship, I think those differences make the dynamic more exciting. That's where I don't think differences are as necessary for friendships. Like, if I voted for Leo's best sign for a friend, I would say another fire sign, probably Sagittarius. Maybe that's the difference here. So Sagittarius, most compatible for friends. Yeah, I would say so for Leo. But when it comes to a romantic dynamic, I would want a little bit more difference. I would look for air signs. Leo and Gemini can be fun. Gemini is a little scattered though, and Leo is very consistent, so they may be a little bit too different for each other. Leo and Aquarius have that face-off energy that I talked about. That can be very passionate, very sexual. And then Leo and Libra could be very interesting because Libra is probably the most receptive air sign, and Leo is one of the most outgoing fire signs, and so that's where they can work very beautifully together. Both Leo and Libra love having a good time. Like, they're both ruled by benefic, so they both see the glass half full, if that makes sense. Like, both like to keep things very positive and kind of sunshiny and warm. So I think I would say romantically Libra or Aquarius, but for friends, Sagittarius is more of a friendship connection for Leo, in my opinion. Virgo, and that's something I just realized. Maybe that's how all of these are. Aries with Leo. Yeah, I think that is true. Taurus with Virgo. Yeah, maybe that's the difference here. I think they're evaluating what I would say for best friend connection. So they're pairing Virgo with Capricorn, which again, that's kind of weird because they paired Taurus with Virgo, but then they're pairing Virgo with Capricorn. So like, I don't know. I guess they just want all the signs of different elements just pair up with a sign of your own element. I guess it doesn't matter which one apparently. Virgo and Capricorn, again, it's the same thing. It's the same thing over and over again. Even my analysis is starting to be the same because Virgo and Capricorn, they have a lot in common. They're earth signs. They're practical, responsible, whatever. That's kind of boring though for a romantic connection. I think friendship wise, yeah, they can be friends. Like because they have a lot in common. It's easy. They relate to each other. But ideally with a romantic connection, you want a little bit of difference there. You want that complementary nature. So, what did I say for Virgo? I think common matches for Virgo are either Taurus or Capricorn or Scorpio. Virgo and Scorpio are often paired together. I think Virgo and Scorpio are a little bit overrated to pair together all the time, but so I would pair Virgo. I said Scorpio, Cancer, or Taurus. Because this is one of those things where usually I like pairing opposing signs together, but I think Virgo and Pisces are less compatible than any opposing pair. Because Earth and water signs, opposing Earth and water signs can be difficult, particularly Virgo and Pisces, though. I think maybe just because both Virgo and Pisces are so focused on processing things and like they're both very like internal. And so that makes they're not receptive to each other's differences, I don't think. Pisces is, I don't know why I'm talking so much about Pisces, but that's okay. Pisces is so emotional that they're really looking, that's their main like function or main sense, their main tool. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but Pisces is looking for the feeling with other people, and Virgo is very detached, especially when they're a little bit shy or uncomfortable. Virgo's gonna be very detached, so Pisces is gonna be uncomfortable around Virgo. They're not really gonna understand them, and likewise, Virgo, they're just so different. They don't really work together. So that's where I would more look to either Cancer or Scorpio for Virgo. I think those work very well. There are some other, like, you don't always have to pair. I've focused a lot on opposing elements, fire and air together, earth and water together. That's what I would typically look at for like the most compatible romantic connection. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. For example, you could pair Virgo with another mutable sign. Not so much Pisces, but Virgo and Gemini have that shared mercurial connection. I've actually noticed a lot of couples who have, Sun in Gemini and Sun in Virgo for that couple. It's one of those things where, both are intellectual, both can have really great conversations, but they have enough difference, that Virgo's going to be a little bit more stable. They might be the responsible one. Gemini's going to be a little bit more wild. But that's often what I see with relationships with my synastry readings. If you want a reading, hit me up. Check out my website, by the way. But for the synastry readings, I've noticed usually one person is the dreamer, one person is the rock, so to speak. So I could see Gemini being the dreamer, Virgo being the rock. I could also see Virgo being with Sagittarius as well, because again, when you have signs that have the same modality, they are either opposite or square to each other. And yes, those are harsh aspects. So that indicates, these signs have different approaches. They may disagree a lot. However, they have enough in common that they have that major aspect. Yes, it is a contentious aspect, but at least it's a major aspect. So that means they can see each other. They can understand each other. So in other words, it's one of those dynamics where Virgo and Gemini may disagree, but they'll understand and respect each other. Virgo and Sagittarius, they may disagree. Depending on what else is going on in their charts, it may or may not work because it's one of those things where Virgo is so organized and Sagittarius is so unorganized that difference can drive each other crazy. But again, both are intellectual though. Both are very adaptable. Virgo may admire Sagittarius' confidence and optimism. Sagittarius may admire Virgo's practicality and organization, maybe. I don't know. So that's where, even squaring signs can actually be very interesting for compatibility, in my opinion. They won't agree, but they will understand and respect each other. So in short, I would pair Virgo with maybe Scorpio or Cancer, water signs, or even Gemini or Sagittarius, or other earth signs. Virgo and Aquarius is also an interesting one. I'm sorry I'm talking so much about Virgo, but Virgo and Aquarius is interesting. They have a lot of differences. So, Aquarius, they're both detached. They're both intellectual. So they both like talking. They both like deep conversations. They do have a lot of differences, though. Aquarius is fixed air, so they're very stubborn and they're very detached, even more so than Virgo. I would say Virgo is actually very sensitive deep down. Aquarius is sensitive too, but not really. Like Aquarius is compassionate, they're passionate, but in a very detached, like, kind of way. And Virgo is more sensitive, and I could see Aquarius offending Virgo. But there is a connection there because both are helpers. Both want to help other people, help society. Both are fixers. So they have a weird connection. They have weird things in common. I don't know. So Virgo compatibility is kind of interesting. But yeah, Virgo and Capricorn, I would say, would be more friendship material. Even Virgo and Taurus, I think, I would more see as being friends. Maybe Capricorn. I don't know. But romantically, I would look to the water signs other than Pisces. Or even Gemini or Sagittarius. Water signs or mutable signs is what I'd look at for Virgo. Okay, now this one I'm probably going to disagree with. I'm sure they're going to say Aquarius, right? Yeah, because they already paired Libra with Gemini. Or no, they paired Gemini with Libra, so now they have to pair Libra with Aquarius, which makes no sense to me, but whatever. So again, kind of like what I said earlier, Libra is going to... this one I probably disagree with more than any other pairing in this whole article, because Libra is the one sign that I think is least compatible with their own sign, if that makes sense. Like, some signs like their own sign. Aries can work with Aries very well. What's another example? Aquarius with Aquarius could work pretty well. Virgo with Virgo. Yeah. but Libra doesn't. Two Libras are both waiting for the other one to initiate. They're like negative magnets. Like, they're very open. They're very receptive. They're waiting for someone else who's going to take the initiative a little bit more than themselves. So Libra and... I was going to say Libra and Libra would be even worse than Libra and Aquarius. Libra and Aquarius would at least work better than Libra and Gemini, because Aquarius is strong-willed. They are fixed, so they do have a little bit more of a chance of being a leader and taking the first step. But still, Aquarius is so kind of aloof and independent. They may or may not make that first move, It kind of just depends on the Aquarius. I think overall, Aquarius is still an air sign. They still would kind of prefer the other one to initiate. But, so I mean... if I was restricted to air signs, I would pair Libra with Aquarius. But I think we can do better than that. I think I said Leo or Aries. Leo or Aries. Libra and Sagittarius doesn't typically work as well, because Sagittarius is another intellectual sign. So you would think it would be tempting to say, well, they're both intellectual. They have so much in common. That's not what Libra is looking for, though. They're not looking for someone that has a lot in common with themselves. Libra is receptive to someone different than themselves. They're receptive to someone more strong-willed. Sagittarius isn't that strong-willed. They do have their moments where they can be very outgoing and charismatic and adventurous. Those are definitely Sagittarius keywords. But Sagittarius can also be very, inward-focused, intellectual, analytical. They're kind of an overthinker. They're kind of reminiscent of an air sign, really, in a way. So I think Sagittarius and Libra actually have too much in common to be attractive for Libra. I think Libra works better with the other fire signs, Leo and Aries, because Sagittarius is very different than Leo and Aries. Sagittarius is intellectual, it's mutable, adaptable. Leo and Aries are leaders. They are the most confident. They put themselves out there. They're the most spontaneous and impulsive. So that's where they work the best with Libra. I feel like it's so straightforward, especially even for friends. I think even on a friendship level, Libra doesn't really work well with other air signs. They're wanting someone more strong-willed. They're wanting someone more impulsive. Libra loves that confidence. They love that spontaneity. Libra themselves are not very spontaneous, but they're very receptive to spontaneity, like from other people to some extent. So Libra and Aries also are both very like social. They love, a good party. Well, Leo too. Leo, Aries, and Libra. They all love a good party. They love a good time. Um, yeah. So really, Leo or Aries would be my top pick for Libra for sure. Libra and Aquarius. I think Aquarius could actually make Libra uncomfortable as well because Aquarius is such a rebel. Aries and Leo can be rebels too, but they're more positive and more like socially palatable, if that makes sense. And that's what Libra admires as well. Libra is very social, wants to be liked, and Aries and Leo are very cool. They're very cool signs. Like Sun is exalted in Aries and in domicile in Leo, so that means those two fire signs are going to be very like well liked and admired and respected. And Libra loves that. Libra kind of envies that in a way. They love that attention. Even just being around someone else who's getting a lot of attention would be, I think, very attractive for Libra. Libra would love to be with, partnered with the cool guy or cool girl. So I would say Aries or Leo. This video is gonna be long. I didn't realize. Sorry, guys. Maybe I guess some of you are into that. I don't know. Scorpio. So what did they pair Cancer with? They paired Cancer with Scorpio. So now they're gonna pair Scorpio with Pisces. See, this is so boring. It's deeper than that. You don't have to do anything, but by getting to know each sign personally, you can come up with better matches than just pairing them with other signs of the same element. I already know what they're going to say. Scorpio and Pisces, they're both very deep. They're both very mysterious. They're both deep feelers. They're both open to mystery and complexity. So, of course, yeah, they have a lot in common. They could be definitely great friends. And could that friendship be part of something greater, something romantic? Absolutely, for sure. And also just having so much in common is going to put both of them at ease. They're both deep feelers, and so being with another deep feeler not only would be sexual and very like cuddly, and they're both very touchy-feely deep down. Scorpio doesn't like to admit that or come across that way, but deep down they're very touchy-feely, very sappy. So what was I saying? So yeah, I mean that would be a connection that both could invest in and feel comfortable with. But they both have many of the same strengths and the same weaknesses. So that's my one criticism. Like, if one's having a bad day, they both are. So that, I think that makes the relationship a little bit more frail in a way. Like, it could be long lasting because of that deep connection they have. But I guess just from an astrological perspective, as an astrologer, I like to see that both signs are learning from each other or balancing each other's differences in some kind of way. So Scorpio, I paired with Taurus or Capricorn. I mentioned with Taurus that, Taurus and Scorpio have that opposing fixed energy. So they are very fixed, very stubborn, very strong-willed. They can enjoy that. They can like that and respect it in each other. Even if they butt heads, that could actually be kind of passionate if they have that little edginess there. I think that could actually be really attractive. But both are so strong-willed. Both are sensual. Scorpio and Taurus is... I've had many Tauruses and many Scorpios tell me that it's an attraction. It can be romantic or sexual, but also they admire each other. They, it's kind of like each sign, neither of them could win in like a fight in a way. Like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, each one respects one another because they both have like similar yet opposing strengths, if that makes sense. So Taurus and Scorpio, I think, is a really great match. I would also pair Scorpio with Capricorn, though, because I think they have a lot in common. This is a sextile, so it's very harmonious. They have enough different to be complementary, but enough in common to relate to each other. Both Scorpio and Capricorn are around the same time of the year. It's a very dark time of year and intense. And, Scorpio is ruled by Mars. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. So they both are ruled by malefics. So they both are kind of cynical and pessimistic. They're both very ambitious as well. These are also the two most like masculine yin signs, if that makes sense. So they are introverted and inward focused, but at the same time they're also very ambitious. Both Scorpio and Capricorn really value how they are perceived. They value status and wealth and like power to some extent. So they both really are masters at maintaining an excellent reputation. And so I think Scorpio and Capricorn can feed off of each other. And also Scorpio and Capricorn are very private, which can, that may or may not help a relationship. I mean, on the one hand, I could see how both are so private that neither one will open up to each other. But on the other hand, I could see how, both would admire each other's privacy and respect that. And because they have that in common, they can open up to each other maybe a little bit more. Or maybe they're fine with not opening up to each other in that kind of way and still having a deep connection because of their commonalities. I could see Scorpio and Capricorn being partners in crime or like business partners. Both could create an empire. Both are masters at like working up the social ladder or the corporate ladder, so to speak. So I think that I would say Taurus or Capricorn are really both interesting matches for Scorpio. And I mentioned with Virgo that Scorpio and Virgo are often paired together. That's why, like, I guess that even that level of pop astrology would be a little bit deeper than this article. Virgo and Scorpio are said that they used to be the same sign. Their emblems are very similar. Their glyphs. Both Virgo and Scorpio are like very perceptive and inward focused. They're both kind of analytical, kind of hyper aware. They have a lot in common. I think Virgo can often be misunderstood. So Virgo may actually enjoy how perceptive Scorpio is, and Scorpio would enjoy how reliable Virgo is. Also with Scorpio, like, they need this balance of Scorpio wants someone predictable in a sense, like someone reliable so that they know that they can invest in them. But Scorpio also wants someone complex because Scorpio loves complexity, but they also love reliability. So that's where I could see, Taurus isn't really that complicated or complex. It's very straightforward, for better or for worse. Capricorn is straightforward, but it's also very private and secretive. So that adds another layer that could be intriguing for Scorpio. But lastly, Virgo may actually be interesting because it's a little bit more complicated or complex, but still reliable, like an earth sign. So Virgo could be interesting for Scorpio, now that I think about it, I guess. Also, Virgo and Scorpio are both very like deep signs. They like seeing like, how does something really work? They're both like very curious, I guess. They want to figure out how everything works. So really any of the earth signs I think would work pretty beautifully with Scorpio. But Pisces, sure. And I think as friends, I would, if you ask me what is the best sign for a friendship for Scorpio, I would say Pisces or Cancer. But romantically, I would look at the earth signs. Or like I mentioned, you could look at other fixed signs. We already talked about Scorpio and Taurus. Scorpio and Leo, I would caution against. I don't think that works. I've talked about this a lot, how Scorpio and Leo are attracted to each other because at first glance, they seem to have a lot in common. Both are very passionate. Scorpio can actually come across like a Leo. Like, I've mistyped people, Scorpio suns, for being a Leo because they come across like very warm, confident, outgoing. They come across like a Leo. Both are passionate. Both are loyal. Both can be very sexual. What else? Both are very fierce and independent. So at first glance, why wouldn't you couple those together? But once they get together, Leo loves attention though, and they want a lot of freedom to roam around. Scorpio is looking for a much closer knit connection. They are emotionally intense. So I think Leo's like attention seeking behavior and freedom loving behavior make Scorpio insecure. Like that's because that's not what they're looking for. And vice versa, Scorpio is more rigid or like containing. They're looking for more of a possessive dynamic than Leo. So I think both can really trigger each other's insecurities, and that's where there's this friction there where they can start fighting a lot. Both are very fierce. Neither one will compromise, but neither one will leave either because they're both very loyal. So that's where you get this roller coaster of like intense fighting and then making up, and it's very passionate, but neither one will break it off, and it can be very destructive. And I've seen this in many different combinations. Like, I've seen that with Venus signs, I've seen that with sun signs. I would caution against Leo and Scorpio. I'm not saying it could never work depending on the combination, but that is one. Usually I would look at signs that square each other, but that particular dynamic I'm not so in love with. But anyway, Scorpio and Taurus could work. Scorpio and Aquarius could also be very interesting. The main difference or challenge is that Scorpio is the most emotionally intense sign. Aquarius is one of the most detached signs. So that can be awkward in a romantic relationship. If one is like very emotional and wants that emotional expression or reception, then Aquarius is awkward with emotions. So Scorpio may be too emotional for Aquarius, and Aquarius may not be emotionally, expressive enough for Scorpio. But both may admire each other's strong-willed nature. Both are rebels as well. Both Scorpio and Aquarius like to do their own thing and I think they're the most rebellious signs, really, other than fire signs, I guess. So both can admire that and relate to that. So that could be an interesting dynamic. But if I had to boil it down, I would say Scorpio with an earth sign. Okay, I spent a lot of time on that. I'm not necessarily intending to go through like all the different signs and combinations. Let's try to keep this simple so I can wrap it up. Of course, they're matching Sagittarius with Aries. I almost feel like it's pointless to even continue this article because it's so predictable. You already know what I'm gonna say. Sagittarius with other fire signs, they have a lot in common. They're both outgoing, adventurous. I mean, this is easy. I could do this in my sleep, and anyone that understands elements could also do this in their sleep. Because they have a lot in common. They can be great friends. Could that friendship be part of something greater? Absolutely. But I would pair Sagittarius with Gemini because of what I mentioned earlier. Both are intellectual. They have enough in common, but enough different from one another. They are both intellectual. They can have really great conversations, but Gemini is going to enjoy how like physical Sagittarius is. They're both going to enjoy how flexible the other one is. Also, Sagittarius and Gemini are both very humorous. I didn't mention that before. So they'll enjoy each other's like quick-witted nature and their sense of humor. They'll both enjoy each other's adventurousness. I think Gemini and Sagittarius actually works the easiest out of any opposing elements. Or maybe Aries and Libra works really beautifully too. But Aries and Libra and Gemini and Sagittarius work, I think, the easiest for opposing signs. Leo and Aquarius do too, but they are going to butt heads a little bit more. Which, again, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. But Gemini and Sagittarius, one last thing I'll say about that is they're both yang signs, so they're both impulsive and like outgoing, right? Gemini and Sagittarius, air and fire. But they're both mutable, outgoing signs. So, like, they're both adaptable and open-minded and outgoing and open to other energies. So that's where it works so easily together because both Gemini and Sagittarius are open to different experiences, differences in other people, new experiences. They're both adventurous. So that's why, like, having that in common makes it so easy for them to like, not only do they have that in common, so they've got something in common, but but even their differences, by their very nature, their adventurous nature will bridge. They'll be interested in each other's differences. They're both built for exploration and learning. So, and that's the same but opposite reason why Virgo and Pisces are mutable yin signs, and I think they work the least well of opposing signs. Because they are, I don't know, you'd think mutable signs would make it easier for them to work together, but they just don't. I don't know. Let's go to Capricorn. So I'd be extremely shocked if they matched any of the remaining signs with a sign that wasn't their own element. Here they're matching Capricorn with Taurus, two earth signs. It's just boring. I matched Capricorn with, I said Cancer as the most compatible sign, or Scorpio. I've talked about this at this point. Capricorn and Cancer have that opposites attract dynamic. Both will have to be very mature for that to work, but it could be really great. Capricorn will, as dry and like emotionless as Capricorn seems, I think that they would actually be receptive if they're whole within themselves and mature. I think they would be receptive to someone kind of warm and gushy and nurturing like Cancer. Okay. And then same, the other way around. Cancer would be receptive to the structure of Capricorn because ideally Cancer, that's what Cancer is looking for, I think. So I think Capricorn and Cancer would be really beautiful. Or like I mentioned with Scorpio, Capricorn and Scorpio can be like a power couple. They can be, have the best reputation, and they can both be very ambitious. whether that be both with their own careers or maybe they are working together. Either way, I think Scorpio and Capricorn have a lot in common and can work very beautifully as well. But yeah, I mean, you could always match Capricorn with Taurus or Virgo. That would be easier. But I think romantically, I don't know. I just think it'd be more interesting pairing Capricorn with a water sign like Cancer or Scorpio. Pisces could work too, but then you have the difference of Pisces is one of the least structured signs. I would say Pisces and Gemini are maybe the least structured signs, and Capricorn is probably the most structured sign. So I think that's where they maybe have too much different from one another. That can work though, Capricorn and Pisces. It seems kind of crazy, but both have this like worldly intelligence, and both are like very deep, so they can actually enjoy each other. I think there'd have to be something else going on in the charts to like balance their differences though, because they are, talking about sextiles. Capricorn has more in common with Scorpio than they do with Pisces, in my opinion. Um, you know, Capricorn's ruled by Saturn, so it's very constrictive. Pisces is ruled by Jupiter, so it's very expansive. They just have so much different from each other. It's a little bit more difficult. Aquarius. They are matching Aquarius with Gemini. That's no surprise. Aquarius and Gemini do have a lot in common. I don't hate Aquarius and Gemini together for a romantic connection. Aquarius is strong-willed, and Gemini is more flexible, so that is a little bit of the difference that I'm looking for. Of the two, I do think... Well, really, I guess either sign could initiate, but with Gemini, it's going to be in a more like sporadic way. Both can be a little bit shy and like not like they're in their own world, kind of. But Gemini views things in a much more nuanced way. Aquarius is a little bit more simplistic. There's still some complexity, but Aquarius does have a little bit more simplicity that allows them more confidence, more of a strong personality. So Aquarius and Gemini, I don't hate that. I think it could work. Both are very eccentric. Both are a little bit experimental. They're both kind of like freaky, for lack of a better word. They're both interested in ideas, unusual ideas and experiences. So I think that could be a great friendship. And could that friendship be part of something more? Absolutely. That's what I keep saying for these pairings. But what I would pair Aquarius with would be Leo. They're gonna butt heads. That it's going to be edgy. I think that could be exciting and passionate. They can learn from each other. They admire each other. They're both leaders, but in different ways. I think, also Aquarius and Leo are both kind of party animals. Sometimes Aquarius can hate people and want to do their own thing. I guess you could maybe say that about Leo, but both are fierce and strong-willed. Both are leaders. So I think Aquarius and Leo could be very interesting. Other than that, Aquarius and Aries could work too, but they may have too much different from one another. Aries is so impulsive, and Aquarius is a little bit has more foresight, I think. So there could be that difference there. Aquarius and Sagittarius could be very interesting. Both are philosophical. Both have this combination of being very intellectual, but also being kind of like boisterous and like animalistic, instinctual. So I think Aquarius and Sagittarius can actually be very sexy and passionate as well. So really, I would say Leo. My second choice would probably be Sagittarius, and third would be Aries. Other than that, like I mentioned before, you can match Aquarius with the other fixed signs as well, Scorpio or Taurus. I think either of those could work as well. You're gonna butt heads, but you're gonna understand and respect each other because you'll both be strong-willed. You'll both be individuals. Lastly, let's see if we can do this in under an hour because I didn't intend for this video to be this long. Lastly is Pisces, and no surprise to anyone, they matched Pisces with Cancer. Both are water signs. They're profound emotional connection, yada yada. We get it. Is that wrong? No, but I wouldn't choose Cancer for a romantic. It could be a romantic connection. I think especially early in life or when you're like discovering yourself, you're gonna date someone who's more similar to yourself. So Pisces and Cancer could absolutely work. Both wear their heart on their sleeves. They're very emotionally intelligent, deep, creative, intuitive, all these water sign keywords. They have a lot in common. That it's going to be an easy, it's a no-brainer. It's an easy connection. But what I would like to see even more is Pisces being with someone who's a little bit more structured, a little bit more practical. It's one of those things where Pisces is the dreamer and the other sign is the rock. So Pisces and Taurus, I think I would pick Taurus because again, Pisces and Capricorn may be a little bit too different from one another. Capricorn may be so structured and dry, where Pisces is so like wet, for lack of a better word, so warm and kind of sporadic. Capricorn may be too different, and then Virgo and Pisces are opposite. They both, it's an awkward connection. Like I think Virgo is too dry, too analytical. Pisces needs someone more instinctual like themselves, I think. So I would go with Taurus. You know, both are ruled by benefics. Both look at the glass half full. Both are warm. But they have those differences though. Taurus will soak up Pisces nurturing, you know, kind of sappy energy, and Pisces will enjoy Taurus's like strength and like fixed nature. Or you could also look at mutable signs too, not Virgo, but Pisces with Gemini or Sagittarius. I definitely don't hate those matches either. Pisces and Sagittarius in particular are both ruled by Jupiter. Both are all about like adventure, and both are very open-minded, and they might love exploring like different exploring different people, ideas, experiences. You know, both love trying new things. So Pisces and Sagittarius could be very interesting. Pisces and Gemini could be interesting as well. These are the two least structured signs, so I think this would be a wild connection. Both are going to be very happy-go-lucky and just kind of childlike. You know, I think they could have a lot of fun together. The main difference would be Gemini is one of the least emotional signs. Pisces is one of the most emotional signs. So as long as they can be receptive of that difference, it would work. You know, especially if you have maybe a kind of dry Pisces with a emotional Gemini, then that could be a connection as well. But I would say Pisces with Taurus is what I would match them as. Okay, so yeah, that ran on a little long. Hopefully this wasn't too boring. But I hope you had fun with me and maybe learned something. Let me know your thoughts about, you know, your experience with compatibility and matches, and do you agree with me? Do you disagree? I'm open to hearing all of that and more. Okay, but thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me with this hour that I just killed, and have a great night or day or whatever.